Point. Today we're going to be talking about some World War One history.
Fantasy World War One.
Remember, World War One, not two.
Not to, yeah, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. Because I already seen this one.
A beautiful product of the American education system is inbound.
Yeah, just. But the thing is I'm not even mad at him for what I thought I was going to be mad at him for, because I looked at his comment section and his description, and I'm going to be mad about a completely different thing. So today we're covering Maname Matt, the wrong man bad himself, about Yojo Senki, which is a pretty good show.
And what his problem is.
And what his problem is with it, yeah, I'm interested to see what his issues are with it, because I generally thought the anime was quite good, and I've been reading the manga a little bit, and I have to say it's also pretty good. I will say though, if you are gonna do the manga route, get ready to do a lot of reading, because it's very word intensive, very word intensive.
I marathoned the anime this morning, actually.
Oh, cool.
Oh, shit.
Well, yeah, no, so
the movie's coming out soon too.
Yeah, no, they were showing it in a theater nearby, and I couldn't go to see it. It really sucked.
Bummer. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that, but yeah. So I guess without any further ado, it's only a 5-minute video. It's a nice short, quick video, so we should be able to get this done pretty easily. So let's get started.
What's up guys, Mamba here, and today I want to talk about a pretty popular anime, Yojo Senkai. Now it may not be this season's most popular anime, but it's...
Senkai.
Now he flashed that up there really quick, but I did a bit of fact checking.
Could you advance like one frame for me?
One frame?
Something.
If I just...
Technical issues here at Paul's on Point.
Well, that was a bit more than one frame. Hang on.
Oh, maybe... Just
are you seeing the
Well, it's a vague speed lines image variant of it. It's not fully on screen yet, so if you press pause, play and pause for maybe.
Pretty close.
Yeah, alright, I'm here. I'm
okay.
caught up.
So I did some fact checking on this because I wanted to know because here's the problem, right? He doesn't cite where he's getting this data from, because his statement is, well, it was popular, but it was not the most popular, right? Was his statement. However, and to demonstrate that, he brings up what is MAL, which I found out was MAL, and it's sorted by popularity, and it comes in 4th, and it still comes in 4th as well, if you go to MAL now.
Is it not 5/5?
So, but the issue I have is not necessarily that he's wrong, because he's not actually wrong. Because I would say that if you come in, 4th or 5th, right, you're not. It's still popular, but it's not like it's Konosuba 2nd season popular, right?
More popular than Little Witch Academia, apparently.
Apparently, according to this, right, which is weird. Again, the problem is he doesn't cite this. He doesn't say according to Mal, right? It's this, right? According to my data, it was considered this popular this season. He just sort of quickly goes, oh yeah, it was pretty popular, flashes this up for like a split second, and then just vanishes. And it kind of annoyed me, because if you're going to be making a statement like that, if he didn't have to show Mal to make that statement, but if you're going to do that, at least cite your shit.
At least show some data sets or something, like, I don't know, like key phrases on Twitter, I don't know. But well, yeah, this more just shows it aired this season.
Well, there is one thing, maybe two things. You got the ratings on each show, like 8.44 for Konosuba, and I see Little Witch has 7.98. And you got
I bring it up because I posted it in the chat.
And you can see how many people liked it, like almost 100,000 for Konosuba, and
so
125 for the Demon.
So I'm on Mal now, right? I brought it up because it's linked in the chat above. So it was winter 2017, and if you sort by members, which is how many people added it to their MAL list, right? It comes in 4th behind the Revenge one, Dragon Maid, and Konosuba. So it's very interesting that Dragon Maid is not in his list.
And maybe
so
it's another order.
I don't know when he... I mean, when he took his list, obviously I think the numbers were different, so it could have been that he just took his list at a different point in time during the season, because obviously it's been like 2 years since 2017, so it's clear that it's, it could have moved in that time. So I'm not gonna go on too hard for that, but the point is that Yoko Senki's still 4th, but if he had just said according to MAL's popularity rankings, it's ranked 4th, or according to MAL, it's pretty popular, but it didn't beat out the others. And then if you do it by score, it also comes out as being 4th. Although there's a couple of other ones that are, Gintama's 9, Rakugo Shingu is 8.3, Konosuba is 8.37, Dragon Maid beats it slightly at 8.16, and it's at 8.12.
Well,
so
just to finish this point, it's all fine if you say it's so popular and so, but in the image I see now, you got all these stats for these different shows, and the one that's important, Jojo Senki, has a red bar through the stats.
Cut off, yeah.
And
a little bit of an objective flaw. We're 9 seconds in, by the way.
Yeah.
And the issue is this little infographic tells me nothing. It doesn't tell me anything. It just says, oh, well, like, I don't know. This could be halfway down the list for all I know, right? Like, I don't know that this is the top of the list. And what if it's the middle of the list? Like, I don't know. And this is what I mean. If you're going to be doing it, he didn't have to cap it off so we can continue. He didn't have to source anything. He could have just made the statement, well, it was popular, because it was at the time, right? Wouldn't care. But if you're going to show something like this to authoritate / solidify your statement, make sure it's actually going to do that, and not just, mucking around. So anyway, let's continue.
The show itself follows our main character as he essentially debates with God. He dies in this life and gets reincarnated as a little girl in Germany right before World War II.
Except Germany?
This time they're...
First mistake. World War II.
And in Germany.
Yeah. Now, this is a fantasy setting, an alternate universe setting where things happen differently. Now, he joins the army, and because I watched this today, 1923, 1924 was when he was picked up from the orphanage.
This time.
In our world, that would have been between World War I and World War II, but it's very clearly a continuing, a fantasy World War I that's continuing.
If you read the synopsis on, what was it? I can't remember because I was reading. I made sure to fact check this to make sure, right?
Yeah.
If you read the synopsis on, I believe both Wikipedia and I think MAL as well, they both reference it as being World War I instead of 2.
Yeah.
So I think that the terms of the dates being wrong, again, I think it's because it's a fictional fantasy alternate history. All the countries have different names. It's
but even then, they mention
they are stand-ins for, obviously, you have the French, the Dutch,
the US,
the German, the US, right? You have the stand-ins for the countries, right? However, again, it's an alternate history inspired by World War I, and the anime doesn't get a whole lot into that, but the manga does. The manga gets really fucking into the fact that, it to the point where they are laying out military strategy.
Yeah.
It's like a full-on fucking history class
in the
manga. It's really good. It's good, but it's fucking crazy how detailed it gets. It's really weird.
Yeah, and I don't understand how he could have really made this mistake, because they mentioned the Battle of the Rhine, and they're talking. And they're in trenches. It's clearly trench warfare. They even mentioned there's a stalemate. I don't think he knows World War II either, because so the German offensive on the Maginot Line, or whatever, however you would call it, would stalemate describe that? Because I'm pretty sure they kicked the French's shit in day one.
Which I think is pretty accurate to what happens in the anime, where they kick this shit in.
Later, but that's because Tanya has a plan and it does a nice pincher move and all that stuff. But really, this is World War One, and she isn't. Don't say Germany. Say the analog of Germany, because this isn't Europe. This isn't.
It isn't. Yeah.
Earth.
It's the alternate history German Empire.
It's not one-to-one is the problem, right? And that's the issue that I also have, is that he's... Yeah, you wouldn't say Germany, you would say the analog, which I don't actually remember the name.
Somehow, I haven't watched this, but somehow I think this ties into what his problem with the show is. Now,
before we continue, though, I will have to say, because he mentioned it in the description in the comments, he does admit that this was a mistake. He does admit.
Yeah, we'll get to that later, because there's something he says that kind of just a little bit.
Okay. Well, if you want to get to that later, I just wanted that mentioned because, he does know that this is a problem, but it becomes a bigger problem because he mentions it's a problem. But anyway, let's keep going.
There's magic, and now I'm gonna throw up a quick trigger warning. I will be
Ooh.
Well, we'll be talking about.
Just keep going. We had to stop for the trigger warning, but yeah, keep going.
Talking about this anime after I have stepped back and taken an objective look at it. I know a lot of people love this anime.
How is that a trigger warning?
After my analysis, I found it to be
I find it
absolutely fucking shit. This is anime, and this is my problem with Yojo Senkai.
Can you pause 1 second? Is objective. If people claiming objectivity is a trigger.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't understand what the trigger warning was about. Like, is he putting a trigger warning for people that like the show? Like, I'm not entirely sure what
I think that's it, really, because...
Well, I mean, he got us for making this video.
Yeah.
Well, it caught my eye for different reasons than just this trigger warning. But...
Yeah, and I think that it's just weird that... Because I don't have a problem if he doesn't like it and he thinks it's shit. I don't have a problem if that's his opinion and he can actually articulate that opinion in a way that is reasonable. Then I'm all game for that. Like, I don't care. Like, you can dislike shit that I like, right? And I don't have a problem with it. But it's just the trigger warning. I'm going to be looking at this objectively.
And my conclusion is it's shit.
It's shit. And it's like, it's not really worth a trigger.
Does he ever mention in this video, because I think one of you watched it, how many episodes he watched, or did he?
Yeah, he does. He mentions it in the video. Okay. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that when he gets to it. So let's continue.
Now, I do want to preface this video with the fact that I have still watched every episode out. Well, so far. But for some reason, each time I watch an episode, it almost felt like a chore. So I had every intention of dropping this anime, but I realized I was already on episode 6. So
there you go. He was on he up to episode 6 at the time it was airing, is when he watched it.
Right. What happened at episode 6? I forgot. It's been a while.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I just watched this earlier today. I opened up my totally legit
disavow.
Let's see.
Self-disavow. Yeah.
We at Critical Critique, doing an episode of Pause Point.
Absolutely encourage you to not support Crunchyroll ever.
Yeah, we absolutely.
And buy the Japanese DVDs straight from the studio themselves.
Straight from the studio. In fact, fly to Japan and just put some money on the desk and leave.
Okay. Episode 6 was when they, the bombers showed up. They were having to protect the supply depot.
Right.
Against the Entente Alliance TM.
Right. Okay. So, All right. Well, I would say because 6 is about halfway through. Right. I can understand, dropping out / making a sort of why I didn't like this. 6, because most people go by 3-episode rule, right, before they start, deciding whether or not they're going to...
he's already kind of giving a point in the show's favor. The fact he was already on episode 6, the pacing is actually
before you noticed, yeah.
The pacing's actually pretty good and engaging enough that even if you didn't like it, you're already on episode 6.
Right. Okay, let's keep going.
Generally, I catch bad anime by episode 3, but somehow I kept watching this show, not to mention the general consensus around this anime is that it's good. So I knew at that moment I had to do a breakdown and find out what is up with this anime. So let's start with the main character, Tanya. This is the reincarnation of our lead character who, let's face it, is an asshole.
He is an asshole.
He is
That's
an asshole.
true.
He's not wrong. Wrong man is not wrong this time. It's correct. Anyway.
Which could actually be a good thing if you follow certain rules with it. I actually made a whole video on that topip, but the quick version is...
one sec. That episode, that video was not that great.
We're gonna have to do that one. We could probably do a series on this guy.
the Maname Matt series. The Maname Art trilogy. Oh no.
I to be fair, I skimmed most videos I planned to watch, and I skimmed that one. I didn't thought it was really interesting to do an episode on it right away, but I didn't think he said anything impressive.
Right. Well, as assessment of Tanya as a character, I think that yes, he's a bit of an asshole. However,
that drives the story. Like, it's characterized appropriately. The other characters don't like him for no reason, or her, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't
well,
like
let's
her
stick
for
with
no
her
reason.
because she's like
he gets a bit he gets a bit fucking iffy with the pronouns as well. He switches between he and her at one point.
Whatever.
It confused the fuck out of me when he did it.
They don't just the duck over there. They don't just 100% like the duck right out the gate. Like, or no, they don't even really ever like them like him towards the end, because it's just he's always portrayed as being an asshole who rolls or kind of handles things or solves problems in a very detached manner, and it actually catches him a lot of flack. Like, as a character that's an asshole but a useful asshole, it actually is
and it's
realistic. Especially one that's blatantly sociopathic and
and it's
manipulative.
interesting because in the manga it's actually quite different from what I'm remembering from reading it. In the manga, Tanya's more portrayed as like everyone fucking loves Tanya. Like there's only one.
He's good at sucking
from afar,
up. Like
he's good at sucking it up. Yeah.
That's one of the major points of the character too, is that he knows when to put on an appearance or a smile, so it's properly portrayed as a sociopathic character, and it actually kind of works. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah, alright.
Character is an asshole but also relatable. It makes for a good character. The main problem with our main character is that he is, of course, not likable, but also completely unrelatable. Well, unless you're...
So, do you need to relate to the every character?
I think I relate to to Tanya in another way, but not really as her is. Relatability is not really of course, what you said. You don't need to relate to Tanya's situation. You don't need to know how it is to fight in a war and stuff.
Yeah,
what you do.
You can empathize with a character even if they are not directly.
But I can relate to more struggles of Tanya where she wants a thing, but something gets in her way.
You can relate to the circumstance even if you don't necessarily like the character or think the character is kind of a bad person. And here's kind of the thing too. I'm not a millennial who needs to relate to a character, so as long as it's because I don't do this whole self-insertion thing. So as long as the character is well written within the setting, relatability isn't terribly an issue, because there's a lot of side characters around her that you can kind of relate to
that
their
are
reactions
also
to her.
and they're interesting in their own regards. Yeah, and I agree with
the
you.
whole thing with Grant. and him being forced to fire upon civilians at one point. That was actually pretty interesting, and they actually did this really nice thing in the episode where they mixed up the ending and had kind of a that was really nice actually.
It was I do remember that episode. That one was one of the most memorable ones, and I think that again it also ties a little bit into the idea of representation theory a little bit, but that's getting a bit off topic. But yeah, you don't necessarily have to have a relatable character to have the audience empathize with the character, right? Like, I don't particularly relate a lot to Frankenstein's monster, but I can empathize with the shit that, the story, right? I can get into it even though I'm not directly, I'm not a fucking Frankenstein's monster. So yeah, let's keep going.
A sociopath. I just don't find Tanya as an interesting or likable character. I have no emotional investment in her. Therefore, when she's rising through the ranks in the military, I'm indifferent if she gets sent to the front lines or not. And it's not even about making me like her as a character, it's about having me feel some sort of emotion about her. If I hated her, at least I'd be invested in her getting killed, but I just don't care for her. I think the only reason people care about that character at all is because she's a cute little girl who's also evil, and
that's what he thinks, but
you see,
the character does blatantly develop throughout the series. You see it in her interactions with her squad mates. She becomes goes from just being serious. At one point, she even pushes somebody out of the way. Granted, this happens in the episode beyond this or past this, but no, there is actual genuine character.
I find this is of course a very good objective view. I can't relate to this character. I find it unrelatable, boring. I can't.
The pinnacle of objective analysis. Mauler, get your fucking ass off YouTube. This man right here is the king of objective review. Fucking Christ.
The king has been dethroned.
See, I wouldn't care about all of this if he was just like, yeah, this is just my opinion. But he's saying it's objective, like his objective opinion, which is different. Like, you can't. It's not like, yeah, sure, they're an asshole. Yeah, sure, they're unlikable. Like, those are definitely like objective character traits of the character. But the conclusion of, oh well, I just didn't empathize with them. I couldn't feel anything for them. Like that's all subjective. Like, someone else maybe does, feel for them. Especially considering the fact, like, when you boil the whole story down, it's atheism versus Christianity, the show.
Well, I think it's slightly more than that, but who knows?
It is, but I'm just saying, like...
Yeah, memeing.
One of the main, like, driving forces behind Tanya is the hatred of being X, which is essentially God, right? The analog for God, right?
The character is defying, like, especially this isn't as I will give it this isn't as apparent in the anime because they go more into his background before he was reincarnated in the novel. And then I read like the first volume of the novel, but for him, it's being X, as it were, was the first authority he ever really defied against, which is why he keeps kind of going against it. And that is a character trait, and like, I'm not sure about the anime Matt here, but I can relate on some level to defying being defiant towards something that has complete control over me.
And in the manga, it's very similar, where it's a matter of defiance and I don't believe in you, you don't exist, fuck you. And there's a lot of that.
Especially since, his life leading up to that, he followed orders the entire time. It's actually kind of a paradoxical kind of thing for him, where he's good at following orders.
Yeah, he followed orders the whole time, and he used that to get up the ranks to gain authority within, like, the business world, right?
Yeah.
And then he became a very successful businessman, and then one of his subordinates threw him in front of a train.
Yeah, and then in the military, it's actually interesting because he doesn't get to this episode, but there is an interesting moment at the end where she tries to supersede orders, and it's actually a pretty interesting character moment.
Yeah, because the war could have been ended. It could have been over.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's keep going.
That's it. She doesn't develop into any kind of character. She's what most people would consider a flat character or a...
Oh, look at that! Look at that Wikipedia! Look at that! Look at that
Ooh,
Google!
Can you go another
Well,
second?
It's on April
hang on.
1st. It's on April 1st.
Alright.
This is all an April Fool's Day joke.
Okay, hang on.
character.
Yeah, it's
that good?
good.
Okay, so flat characters are two-dimensional in that they are relatively uncomplicated and do not change throughout the course of the work. By contrast, round characters are complex and undergo development, sometimes significantly to surprise the reader.
So, Tanya is in a conflict with God, and despite this obvious power imbalance, she continues to struggle anyway.
Which is contrast to how he conducts himself in life, constantly obeying authority. God, in theory, if God exists, should be the ultimate authority. That's the one authority he defies against. That is,
and of course,
fairly
Tanya,
complex reaction or complex character trait.
And of course, Tanya, it's another nice contrast of Tanya caring about people, but seeing people as tools. While God is ever loving of humanity, but killing them when it suits him. It's killing humans if it helps converting Tanya.
Yes. So, I wouldn't describe Tanya as a flat character.
Oh, not at all. I mean, okay, chest-wise flat, but
everything
else... that's a plus in my book, but that's a minus in some others.
But no, I wouldn't describe I think that the character trait that he's pulled up from Google, which I know is from Google because I screen capture from Google like that as well.
Let's see if he elaborates on why he thinks the character is flat.
Okay, yeah, let's continue.
Relatively uncomplicated and do not change throughout the course of the work. This is lazy writing, but I want to bring up that this is not the only problem with this anime.
No.
Okay, so this is
so it doesn't.
So this is lazy writing, and on to the next point.
Yeah. Why?
And I find it interesting as well because.
Well, let me interject. He said
yeah,
before giving the definition that he said Tanya doesn't change,
which we already established is not completely correct. Tanya does change.
He doesn't give an example of how the character doesn't change either.
Yeah, this is the issue with a 5-minute video, right? Is I would have liked again to have some examples. I would have liked to have had, okay, here is an example to extrapolate my point and showcase why I'm correct. But instead, he makes statements and doesn't qualify them.
Examples are great.
He needed to put this video out while it was airing, otherwise he wouldn't have gotten the views. And I mean, if you're not getting the views on YouTube, why are you even there, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're gonna get to the effort thing in a minute, but yeah. So he reckons it's bad writing. I wonder if he's still stuck in his little vacuum where he thinks that because would he say that the light novels or the manga have bad writing, or
we know the answer to that, but he's only talking about the anime, so
yeah,
I'll give him
anime
some credit
only.
with that.
Only anime exists, right?
And I don't even need to go too much into the novels. I already know enough from manga, just watching the anime that
and the manga
he's wrong about the character being flat.
Yeah, the character's not flat in any of them. it's kind of silly. But anyway, let's see what his next point is.
Anime. Now let's talk about the story itself. It's a pretty damn boring war drama.
It's a pretty damn boring war drama. Lauren.
Great objective analysis.
That's pretty. Not sure about that. All right, let's let him finish.
Now, granted, if you're into this genre, I can see the appeal, but let me ruin it for you.
Keep going. I want to see how he thinks it's ruined. Let's go. Let's keep going.
All right.
Because even if you like war dramas, this is still a bad story. First off, this story requires you to know about World War II. I know almost everyone knows, but
I don't think.
So, putting aside the obvious. Well, let's put that aside. So let's take this logic and apply it elsewhere. I'm not going to be the one, or I'm going to like commit some heresy and compare Tanya or Yojo Senki, Tanya the Evil, whatever you want to call it, to like Das Boot or Enemy at the Gates. Now, or Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan's a bad film because you need to know about World War II.
You need to know about D-Day.
And I already knows how it ends. You already know the ending.
I understand he's like either a millennial and a zoomer, and like anything that happened before 2000 just doesn't exist for him. But come the fuck on.
And okay, so he's gonna say even more stupid stuff in a minute, but. Like
that's the okay.
Statement.
So okay, I just want to point this out. Outside of you should know something about World War II if you're old enough to be watching this. This is covered in like even history classes in middle school. What the fuck? Pay attention. Outside of that,
and my God, do you even know how much World War II media exists?
Yeah, and I mean, like, God forbid you expect your audience to be somewhat educated, but outside of that, the whole underpinning of historical films and historical media about historical events is that you're either cognizant or at least aware of the fact that something happens. And even if it didn't, it could get you into learning about something.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. What I want to say is that for this show, you don't need to know any wars at all.
No.
Well, do you need to know who attacked who at the beginning of this war? Do you need to know that
they explain it? They explain all the context. They do what they do at the beginning of every Gundam episode. They explain the context of the war itself.
Yeah, which is and it's God, it's like do you really need to watch Pearl Harbor? You need to understand World War II to understand Michael Bay's fucking... What was the name of the Pearl Harbor movie that Michael Bay did? Was it just called Pearl Harbor? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but like... Oh my God. And it's really weird to me because, again, in the manga, they actually do go into this shit. They explain it to you. It's really weird. Like, in the anime, they don't really explain...
They give you the brief
They give you the context.
Give
you the context, which is enough, honestly it is, because the manga does get a bit... I actually think that's a criticism of the manga, that it gets a bit too explainy in explaining things. Like, that can turn a lot of people off. And if the anime was the same, right, and it was constantly being like, oh, well, this is this strategy that was invented by this dude, and it means this.
It was invented by not real-life German...
The biplane was invented by this person, right? Like, well, no, in the manga, like, they straight up are just like, this is a philosophy created. Like, Nietzsche fucking shows up in the manga. It's fucking crazy. It's wild as shit. But, like, if the anime, like, was doing that, then I could understand, okay, maybe for someone that doesn't care or understand about that kind of thing, would be turned off by it. But that's not what happens.
But there's like, even outside of that, there's a lot of fiction that makes reference or makes allusion to things that the audience might not necessarily know about, but the people in the audience who do know it can get the subtext behind it. That's what gives any media depth.
Yeah, it's a really weird criticism.
I mean, for one example, for historical context, here in the first episode, you get those French musicians. They are riding on horses, which is what happened in World War I, where the French came with horses, while the Germans came with militarized machine guns and just mowed all the horses down, and the French went, whoa, what is this? I've never seen this tactic before. So the French using magic horses, is a reference to the French using real horses incompetently against this new tactic.
And funnily enough, that's actually a really good I don't actually think that's a detail in the manga, because there's a lot of differences between the anime. It's actually very interesting to compare the two, because the manga has a lot of different visual things, such as like they don't have the backpacks, like the frontal backpacks in the manga. They just kind of fly. They don't have the technological aspect. So the anime actually adds a lot of things that are quite interesting. So yeah, the stuff with the horses. I think there's other like sort of visual type things.
Yeah,
like
you might think sky skiing is stupid, but the armies in the Scandinavian regions did have military companies with skis, because that is where the enemy was.
It's how you get the fuck around.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just imagine, though, if you were to apply this to, like, other shows that reference things like this, like Gunbuster, for example, you're not going to appreciate its adherence to, or at least slight adherence or reference to real-world physics, but, like, how is that a strike against it?
You're not
going to get it, ergos, who cares? I'll put it in there, I'll fucking put effort. Keep going.
Ellie will understand this. You won't be able to understand Rolling Girls if you don't understand ancient Japanese history.
Nope. Not at all.
Who cares about that? That's a strike against it. That's
okay.
my half.
Yeah, alright, let's keep going.
Bit about it, but it doesn't change the fact that we already know how this ends. Therefore, there is no reveal that will surprise us.
No.
The other issue is that our characters
pause that. The character specifically knows what Germany's going to end up like after World War I. Let's forget the fact that he does that. And his knowledge actually does throw that shit into question.
And he's trying to actively stop it as well.
So yes, there is tension, you dumb shit.
like, oh man, fuck. Like you mentioned, the bit at the end of the series where he's going against order, he's trying to stop the war because they could stop the war.
Yeah.
Right? He's actively trying to change, the history. It doesn't work, but it shows you that there is, a tension there because he knows what's going to happen. And another fascinating thing, I hate going back to the manga because, again, I don't want to look at things in a vacuum, but I also think that the manga has, when they're doing the part in the Winter War, right? So they have 5 or 6 chapters, and these are really long chapters too. They're massive chapters, way longer than a normal manga, to be honest. But they have an entire series of chapters specifically about him trying to stop them going to war at winter. Because winter wars always end in disaster. And he's talking about how in this world they haven't done a winter war yet, so they don't know that it's going to end poorly because winter wars don't, and he specifically says Russia, Germany trying to invade Russia, fucking went completely terrible because of the winter war. And all that stuff, and it's fucking fascinating because he's trying to do it without seeming crazy, he knows more than he does. He's in a board reading and talking about it, and it's fucking interesting shit. And the anime does still have some of that, albeit not as much.
Stepping back from that, if you were to look at other types of what was the movie, Panzerlight, or was one any World War II movie, would you say it's less tense because you know what's going to happen? No, that's not how that works. When you know something that is going to happen, but you still want the characters to triumph, granted he doesn't care about the characters, he's already established that. It creates a natural tension because you want to see how they make it through, if they can make it through.
Yeah, it's going back to what Ellie said, Saving Private Ryan. Does it?
So yeah,
does the D-Day scene?
The personal story can throw a wrench into things, or actually surprise you.
It's does the D-Day scene lose all the impact just because you know what's going to happen at D-Day, right? It's not.
And let me
enemy at the gates.
Yeah, let me finish up this logic. You know how it's going to end, so why care about it? Why care about any protagonist in any show, in any type of series? Because the protagonist will almost all the time live. The show will end up on a positive note. Why watch any show of any medium, why play any video game? Because you're going to win the game.
Yeah, it's such a weird logic said.
And I don't even understand where he's getting at this, because he clearly doesn't know history, so like these events are new to him, so it is actually surprising.
Clearly. Well, get ready, because we're about to have a fun time.
A world that has already experienced both world wars, so none of this stuff is coming as a surprise to him either. Therefore, anything anyone says in this series has no weight or mystery, because both the audience and the main character already know what's coming, and that just makes this show, well, boring. There is such a thing as a good...
No. Just no.
That's an actual plot point. Like, that's an actual discussed plot point.
Also, I don't know what the show is that he's showing.
It was, Nobunaga. I don't know. The guy goes back in time, and Nobunaga's a girl. I don't fucking know.
I recognize the art style, but I'm not sure what it's called. So that's
the historical drama. These shows.
Now that's something I recognize. Drifters is good shit.
Well, wait, play this.
And by changing an idea around the history itself, or by making the characters likable people we cheer for. This anime does neither. Now, I know what you may be thinking, that the interest...
So if you make Nobunaga a girl, it is interesting.
It's suddenly interesting.
And likable.
God, Nobunaga's been fucking everything at this point. He's been a fucking... I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a fairy version where he's a
Nobunaga has been also a Pokemon trainer.
Yeah.
I forgot the name. Nobunaga's World Conquest.
It's
a strategy.
Conquest.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, Nobunaga's Conquest, but it's Pokemon. It's great. It's amazing. Oh man, but like, his point right here is just really silly. I don't like. I would like him to extrapolate. Like if he switched and talked about one of those shows and explained why he thinks those do it better than Yoko, then that would be way better, but he doesn't.
He needed to get this video out because he needed those clicks.
We'll get to that in a second. So
change in this anime is the addition of magic, and that is where I want to talk about my third and biggest problem with this anime. I want to start by saying that the addition of magic in this anime could have been good, but it was handled terribly. My original thought of it was, okay, it's a metaphor about how flight changed world.
Only partially.
My God. Oh my God.
I mean,
it's a metaphor about how flight changed World War II, Lolly.
No. It kills me.
It kills me too, man.
There's one. Let's say the Balkan nation who invades. It gets mowed down by aerial units, which is a good metaphor for how flights change world wars or wars in general. But it's also it's also how new tech. You can also make it somewhat larger. New war tactics changed.
They even specify this, because when they're fighting what I think is like. I forget what the nation was to like the Dacian or something like that.
The Dacian,
yeah. Yeah. They even mention when they're sent out and they're supplied by the I think it was the Entente Alliance or the Republic or Republicans, whatever.
Not France.
But not France. When they were supplied by not France, they even mention when they're going in, she even says they're still thinking in 2 dimensions, like they haven't thought about. So, as a metaphor, it actually works really well, because they even comment actively on how people aren't
ready for it.
Yeah, they're not thinking of, they're not thinking about it.
Oh wait, sorry. I think the Entente was Scandinavia. The Republic was France.
Then what was the Dacian Empire?
Were they Dutch?
No, the Dacian were basically Balkan. The Balkan area.
The Balkans,
Okay,
no, that makes sense.
Yeah. But so... Okay,
speaking of not knowing history, we're also dumb as shit. Anyways.
Yeah, we're all the dumbest shit.
Well, at least about fictional history, not real history.
About fictional history, yeah. So, he's going to make a point here that I want to touch on, so I just want to let him play for a little bit.
War II. And then she started using height advantages, and I was like, oh wait, okay, so she's basically like the Red Baron from World War I.
Okay, so
yeah, absolutely. But you think it's World War II?
Yeah, and the other issue is that that actually would be a very good point, because they do talk a lot about height advantage. I think they talk about in the anime as well.
Yeah,
where
they're trying to actively develop devices that allow them to fly higher.
Yeah, and in the manga, that's actually a massive deal, because they are able to go up to, I think, 18,000 or 8,000 feet or something like that. Yeah, it's not 18,000. That would be way too high. But like they go up to 8,000. Like I think they mention that the maximum capacity for normal mages is like 5,000, and they're able, like with Tanya's training and the new things that they use, the gems, they're able to, or they're like clockwork devices, right? That they're able to get to about 8,000 feet, and they go really in depth with it in the manga, where they talk about the reasons behind why normal mages can't go that high, is because they have to like cast 2 different spells at once. They have to cast an oxygen spell, but that's all.
That's all beside the point. But
I'm getting a bit tangenty.
And they even like touch upon this in the episode, what was it, 6, the one he stopped on, when he shot, or when they were shooting down the bombers. They didn't expect her to fly
the bombers
that high.
are
They're like, no, we have the height advantage. You need a fighter to be able to hit us. They won't deploy that quickly.
Yeah, they're not expect. It's the idea of technological advancement and superiority, and how that affects war, and that's something that doesn't really even have to apply to any. This could have been a completely fictional war based off nothing, and that would still be an interesting thing to talk about, right? But anyway, notice, he brings up the Red Baron in World War One. I wonder what's
he is right, but not right. He doesn't think he's right because he thinks it's keep going.
Okay, I see how this is going, and then the slow realization that they mixed up the world wars start.
I realized I messed up a few times myself.
Wait,
I realized.
One second.
I'm not
Sorry
wrong.
to hit me.
Well, not. I'm way behind.
Okay, hang on. I'll keep
But
going.
hey, that's
stop.
not that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mentioned before that in the comments, right? He acknowledges this. He acknowledges the problem that he mixes them up. And his excuse, and I have it actually in the chat. I'll read it out. Where is
do so, because I do want to talk about this as well.
Okay, so he brings up. I realized late into the editing process about a few mistakes with mixing up the world wars, but I do want to specify that it has no real weight on any of my points. Not to mention, I'm merely the product of the US education system, unhappy face. In the description, if you are using this as an example as to why I am wrong, clearly you have no actual valid points to bring up. Take your get out of jail free card and go back to enjoying your echo chambers.
I'm wrong, but just because I'm wrong doesn't mean you're correct. I'm not mad, you're mad. Okay, so I know it's like a really snarky quip about being the product of the US education system, but I'm a product of the education system of the glorious state known as Florida, also known as one of the most ignorant fucking states in the Union, and I'm going to put this out there, right? Okay. Even I covered World War I and World War II. You just didn't pay attention in history class.
And I don't. This is a 5-minute. This is a 6-minute video.
You're a grown
man. It's 5:58, right? It's a 6. He made a 6-minute video.
It is so wrong. We're talking about this for an hour.
Listen. He realized he fucked up in the editing process, but he didn't go back and fix it. Why?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go back and fix it?
Why would you replace all the World War II references to World War I?
Yeah, do it in Microsoft.
why wouldn't you, like, at the very laziest, just have a pop-up on screen that just flashes World War One to indicate that that's what you meant, and then in the description you can go, yeah, I fucked up in the editing and I messed this up, you know, my fault. I've put annotations, or I've put a card that comes up on the screen that says that I'm actually talking about World War One, right? I would have been fine with that. I would have been perfectly okay with that, because that's fine. But my issue is he didn't even put in that little amount of effort. He just left the mistake in until this point, where he actually puts a little asterisk that says, I realized I messed up a few times myself. Like, that's not fucking funny. That's not cute. That's being lazy as shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
if I was making a video like this and I realized, I would just re-record the whole fucking thing. I would just re-record it and just put in new audio.
That would be the natural thing to do. You screw up something to re-record it.
It's not like he's making a fucking 10-hour analysis of The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but even then,
I've
seen the cutting room floor for those videos is much more complex, and even they'll go back. I mean, crap, we gave the guy shit, but like, watching one of Rika Fag's stream, he goes through and he makes sure that he got his points correct.
Yeah. Even Rika.
Okay, what he thinks is correct. What he thinks is correct.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Even Rika has the mental capacity to acknowledge that he should go back and make sure things are correct and fix things if they're not.
Because for how much disagreement we had with him on his trap video, he actually has a standard that he tries to live up to. This guy doesn't have any standards, clearly.
He doesn't. And it's annoying. Because it's a 5-minute video. Like, Rick is making, like, 30-minute to an hour-long videos, right? That's significantly more work.
No wonder he doesn't like Tanya. He probably reminds him of his supervisor at the McDonald's he works at.
But that's what I mean, right? Like, fuck. Just
throwing shade at the people who work for McDonald's, but
yeah.
I'm being mean. Okay, sorry.
This is what I mean, right? Like, all he would have to do is just go back and, like, again, it's 5 minutes. Like, the amount of editing time it would take for 5 minutes is not a whole lot, right? Especially with something like this, where it's just, I'm talking, like, fuck, you could probably make this in Movie Maker.
Yeah, this is a rambling video.
Yeah, like, I'm talking, here's some footage, here's my intro slide, here's my, slide where I talk about flat characters, I might bring up some examples, might switch to some other shows, like, this, I could probably whip up a video, and that's, like, even with me not knowing a whole lot about video editing, I could probably whip up a video like this in about a day, right? Record the audio, like, maybe come up with a script if I needed a script, like, maybe just make it a ramble, like, just
like you're doing now?
Like I'm doing now, yeah. No, I'm good at it. It's what I'm good at doing. Is rambling on. But my point is, the amount of effort that he put into this, like, it doesn't really, like, he obviously didn't put a lot of effort into this, and it just shows. Because if he did, then he would have gone back and just.
And then he tries to deflect the criticism, like, oh, it's not a real criticism. You got me, so you got something wrong, but it's not a real criticism.
And it is, because you didn't address it until now. Like I said, if he had brought up an annotation that said, I fucked up, I meant World War One, I'd be like, fine, no problem.
Also, I like how in doing that, he set up a straw man to attack for anybody who criticizes him, too. So it's like,
pretty much.
You're just a history nerd who can tell the difference between 2 major world wars. 2 history-defining wars that we're still seeing the political repercussions from. I hope he doesn't have any political opinions. Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's just
These people vote. These people vote in the most powerful nation on Earth, despite not knowing what World War I is.
And it's like, fuck, dude. Like, all it would have taken was to just re-record the fucking 5 minutes, right? Like, just go back, set up Audacity again, and just re-record it.
Why isn't this just a Twitter post that's like, I really don't like this show. I understand other people like this, but I really don't like the show because it's not making any valid points. Like,
No, this is objective.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
we're gonna get to that.
He declared
we're gonna get to that later. But
anyway,
anyway,
just like Rika's definition of traps, this is the only valid interpretation of Yojo Senki. Yeah, continue.
All right, let's get past this ramble and continue.
Not big of a deal. I'm willing to deal with that. It's an interesting change. And then Lord Kirito the Great came down and gave her OP powers that only she possesses.
That's not true, by the way.
He doesn't understand.
Like, granted, fair, they don't go into this till later. Actually, no, don't they hint at this in episode 5 when he's laying in the, when the guy she shoots down is laying in the hospital bed and you see his eyes glow, the yellow?
No, it's not. It's not in the hospital bed. It's when the bomber gets shot down. God talks through the dead guy.
No. A bit later.
No.
Either a bit later or a bit before. There's this part where the guy who's the I forget his name. His last name was Sue, and his daughter's name is Mary Sue. By the way, I want to kill the author for that. But it actually shows him. It actually shows like him laying in bed after he's injured, and he starts talking about, Also, he's misunderstanding how this functions. At no point does it specify that it was only something she could do, because God gave the scientist who made the device divine inspiration. So it's obvious that it can give that gift to anybody with magical powers.
The way that the device works is that it requires a prayer to God to function,
which is a sticking point for the character, which adds complexity because he's willing to use the device even if he goes against his own principles.
Yeah, and I don't know if they get into this in the anime, but there's also a level of corruption that comes from using the device that it's more apparent in the manga, where there's a point when he uses the device in a training exercise and he essentially blacks out for 3 days and then wakes up in the middle of a speech, and he's giving like a massive speech about like super fucking hardcore love for the country, love for God, all this other shit, and he realizes that using the device is corrupting his brain. And so what he then chooses to do is he starts using the other device, which is the derivative, not as powerful, but the derivative of the one that this is the OP one, and he comes up with the excuse of, I don't want the enemy to know my secret weapon just yet, I'm going to use the normal one that everyone else uses, but he still has the one there in case he needs it, right? So there's a bit more to it in the manga, but in the anime, right, it's showing that the main conflict of it is that it requires him to go against his own beliefs in order to use it. And so I can understand him not getting that, because to him he wouldn't view that as such a weakness, but to someone that's like
paying attention to the story.
Yes. Well, no, to someone that understands being, hard and fast in their belief and their belief systems, right? Atheism, Christianity, blah 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 blah. Being forced to go counter to that belief system in order to gain that power, right?
He's denigrating.
Exactly. So it's not just OP for OP's sake. There's a reason for it.
It has a clear not even a side effect. It's clear negative to use the OP weapon.
Yeah,
which is a great way to balance it.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of sad because like I said, the anime kind of glosses over a lot of things, and I think it's just because of time constraints, right? They don't have the time to go as in depth as the manga does, but it's the same kind of concept where using the device has negative effects on him mentally, because it's not only because of the curse, right, supposedly, but also because of the fact that it's making him go against his beliefs, and that's creating internal mental struggle, right? So it just feels like he just doesn't care, and he's not paying attention, and he's not
It sounds like when he was watching this, he already established what he thought about the show and is sliding it to fit how he views it.
But anyway, let's see what else he has to say about OP magic.
Anime truly pointless. Just in case you thought we were gonna have her change as a character to get stronger or have to work hard to rise up through the ranks in the military. Nah. Let's just give her OP powers given to her from God. Because just in case you thought that she may have to battle someone on fair grounds or might even lose a fight, well, who needs that shit, am I right? I mean, this was...
Pause. She does lose a fight, though.
Yeah, she does.
And it's not... It's very nice to get given a power, but this power is a power that she does not want.
And arguably, Mary Sue is even more OP.
Yeah, that's not even covered in the anime, so I'm not even.
That's not even that. Yeah, that's not covered. I mean, the movie. I think it's covered in the movie, but like in the manga, it's like it's established pretty much. I haven't read up to the part where she actually shows up yet, but it's fucking established that she's going to be a fucking problem. So it's like. I don't know, man. And also, and even in the context of the show, yeah, she does lose a fight, and it's not all one-sided. There is it is possible for her to lose, and she technically does lose because the war still continues. So she technically does actually lose in the end. But of course, he didn't get to that point because he only watched up to episode 6.
Let's just to finish off. Maybe to finish this off. Every time she uses that weapon, she lost.
Yeah.
It's a battle of, do I use this or not? And when she uses it, she lost. Not
the battle of
the
wills.
battle, the greater war is kind of secondary to the main point of her conflict with
her internal war.
Int.
Yeah.
Her internal war and the war with her and being X. And every time she uses that device, she loses that fight.
Yeah, and
that's the real struggle, really, of the show.
Yeah, and of course that doesn't matter. It's World War II.
Not World War II 1.
World War
was the
III.
cherry on the top of this shit-flavored milkshake. I don't know what the writer is or was planning, but it's clear that they took every shortcut in the book to get there. It's almost impressive how bad the writer for this show is. Bad characters with no weight to any conflict, no weight to the story. Even the fight scenes aren't really that great. The first one wasn't bad, but after that, they all turned into heavily one-sided conflicts.
No, they don't.
So
Why would they?
I watched that. There was a lot of really complex animation, just being done. He doesn't get to it, of course, but the fight between Mary Sue's father and him, there's this one scene where, he has to reach for a knife, and it's very well animated. It's the good shit.
But this series is objectively a shit-flavored milkshake.
Oh, totally.
What's that that budget AVGN insult that he just put out right there?
I don't know. Alright, hang on. Okay, let's keep going.
So why is this anime so popular? It even took me 6 episodes before I stepped back from it and noticed just how bad it was. And to be honest, there is in fact one thing I will praise the writer for on this anime. They intentionally avoid tropes. Trust me, I think having the main character be a cute OP girl definitely helps draw on the crowd.
But he just said they take every shortcut in the book, but now he's avoiding tropes. Yeah. Shortcuts are a trope.
Yeah, what are you on about? Also, I noticed that he's doing the subtitle problem.
I didn't even notice that. There was so much wrong, I didn't even notice the very basic shit of just,
a few of the clips, it's weird, because a few of the clips he uses don't have subtitles, and some of them do. I've just noticed it myself.
Look, okay, I know we're supposed to disavow all reference of this, but look, I'm just saying this for anybody. You can go to either, nia.pantsu.cat or nia.c.
I'm going to mute this section.
It could be either of those. You just click the raw. This drop down that says
just put
raw.
a massive censorship beep.
Yeah.
Just put a massive just beep.
Totally remember doing this.
Hit the drop down menu, you hit raw, you enter the show, and what you do after that is totally immoral and might get miles on your ass. That is between you and God.
That's between you and God.
Between you and being X.
Alright. Let's finish this shit.
But I wouldn't call it cringy. This writer takes a lot of steps to make sure that he doesn't alienate any people he may bring in, and that by itself is actually pretty impressive. I do want to clarify that if I hadn't stepped back and taken an objective look at this show, I might have missed the fact of how bad it is. Now, before we end this video, I know a lot of people feel very strongly about this anime, and I want to clarify that this is all just my opinion. Like,
Oh, and now it's his opinion. His objective opinion.
Fuck.
We're almost done.
Okay, let's get finished.
Welcome to disagree. I have nothing against that. So please comment down below and let me know what you guys think about this anime. And don't be afraid to debate me. Just make sure you actually bring fags. Don't just call me a faggot. If you guys like this kind of content, please support me on my Patreon. I make 2 anime-related videos.
Alright, yeah, he's done now. He's doing Patreon shit.
Yeah.
So...
Oh my lord, we could, we absolutely have to do this guy in the future. Like, you know how much? Let me go check the timestamp. Let me see how much.
I'm at an hour 7.
Yeah, we got an hour's worth of material out of 5 minutes. That is how bad this was.
So, on that end point, right? I step back and I look at the show objectively. But guys, this is just my opinion.
I like
how that works. It's not how that works. It doesn't work like that.
It still blows my mind that he actually contradicted himself mid, this scene right after he said, well, this was really, he took all the shortcuts in the book, and then right after that, well, he avoided all major story tropes. It's like...
Yeah, that's so weird. It's like, no, that's not, again, it's not how that works. It doesn't work like that. You can't... Oh my god.
Well, my point, my problem really is that he misses the main conflict. The main conflict isn't between the predestined fall of the fake German Empire. It's between Tanya and being X.
And the issue is that... Oh god,
I'll give him one thing. At least he didn't call the people who liked this show Nazis. Because I've seen that one before.
Well, he called them psychopaths.
Oh, well, that's...
well, he said if you empathize with Tanya, then you're probably a psychopath. Yeah. But no, yeah, he contradicts himself there, and it's like, fuck, dude. Like, I'm trying to like fucking go through everything because we're at the end, and I want to kind of do a recap. But there's so much that he gets wrong.
Well, know your history, know the main conflict, know how your characters progress,
and most importantly, Deus Level.
Deus Level.
Well, the thing that the thing that annoys me the most is definitely the mistake with the World War I, World War II. I think just because it's such an easy thing to fix. You know, it would have taken him no time at all to fix that.
You know, I would have just laughed and brushed it off if he didn't go about addressing it in the most dismissive and snarky way possible. Especially after he says, "Why don't you leave your comments in the below? Just don't call me a faggot."
Because here's the people make mistakes, right? Like that's the thing that happens on YouTube. It's fine to make a mistake as long as you acknowledge it and you fix it. But he doesn't actually acknowledge it in the video, nor does he actually try to fix it.
Yeah.
He acknowledges it in the comments and in the description, but he doesn't actually even admit fault. He just says, "Oh yeah, I messed up," but that doesn't detract from the point. When it actually fucking does.
It actually does.
I can make an argument for why it doesn't, because whether or not this is World War I or II, the main point of criticism for him is that Tanya is bland, boring, flat.
Well,
which is true, but
the actual war isn't important to a war drama, yeah. But no, whether or not it's World War I or World War II, we can agree that he's wrong.
Yeah, and it's also misinformation. as well, which is a big.
He'd be wrong in World War III as well.
Well, this World War in Tanya, or Tanya the Evil, is basically a combination of World War One and Two, which makes this World War III. Objective logic.
It's more inspired by World War One, but there's a little bit of both going on. But there's not. Again, it's very much more leaning towards the World War One side because you don't have the Hitler figures and the camps and the discriminations and all that. It's more, it's more based off,
It's more if the war dragged on, the Weimar Republic was never a thing, and Hitler never came into power.
Well, I do think that Tanya is the one who is making this a Second World War, not really the other nations.
Yeah.
If Tanya wasn't there, she wouldn't have these distributive warehouses or this seeing people as numbers and all that kind of modern war tactics, World War II war tactics. I think a lot of the World War II influences come from Tanya's perspective of using them.
Well, World War
and
II
the scientists. And the scientists who strapped them to V1s.
That was great.
That was really
great.
Oh my god. That episode was really good. I was like, man, I'm pretty sure the author was like, I need to recreate the opening scene to the one of the scenes from Metal Gear Solid 3 in this stealth mission where you insert via rocket.
That's great. That's great stuff. So yeah, I think to cap it off, wrong man bad.
Deus Vult.
Wrong man bad. Deus Vult. Tanya for president.
Retake Jerusalem. What?
retake Jerusalem. What? So anyway, is that where we're gonna cut it off?
Yeah. I'll find some, maybe some a little bit earlier.